Drink your coffee, read your sports, listen to the Dream Report. Let boy get boy.
Good morning. It is Monday morning, July 20th, 2026, and you're listening to the Dream Report, your weekly look at the machinery, equipment, and vehicle valuation space. I am Marcus, and joining me, as always, is Dana. We have got a lot of moving parts in the market this week, starting with a major regulatory shift out of Washington that is already sending ripples through the Class 8 truck market.
Yes, we do, Marcus. On July 9th, 2026, the Environmental Protection Agency proposed targeted revisions to its 2023 heavy truck nitrogen oxide rule. This is a proposal, not a final rule, so it is open for public comment. But the details are already shifting how we need to look at late model truck comps. According to reporting from Reuters, which cited EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, the proposal keeps about 90% of the numerical NOx reductions, but scales back the emissions warranty requirement. It also gives manufacturers more lead time on useful life provisions and allows them to keep selling current technology engines while the new 2027 compliant engines are phased in.
That is a massive relief valve for the OEMs, and Reuters noted it could save up to about $6,000 per truck, which translates to roughly $12 billion industry-wide. For appraisers, this is all about the pre-buy premium. For the last year, we have seen a distinct premium baked into late-model pre-2027 Class 8 diesel trucks because buyers wanted to stock up on simpler, cheaper engines before the strict compliance deadline hit. Easing this cliff removes the primary driver of that premium.
Exactly. If the risk of a hard compliance cliff is reduced, that pre-buy premium could start deflating long before the rule is ever finalized. The real question for our valuation work is timing. Does the premium start bleeding off right now based on this proposal, or will buyers hold their ground until the final rule is officially on the books? We need to keep a close eye on the public comment window and how the major OEMs react in their upcoming quarterly calls.
It's a classic example of why historical auction results from 3 months ago do not automatically hold true today. Speaking of shifting trends, that brings us to our second thread, which is a clear split we're seeing in the broader equipment comp pool. If you're looking at used equipment as a single category right now, your reports are going to miss the mark.
That's a critical point, Marcus. We're seeing a complete divergence by asset class. On one side, used agricultural and construction iron is actually firming up this month. On a recent episode of the Moving Iron podcast, the hosts covered how used agricultural prices are surging as market momentum builds. They noted a real firming of sentiment and bidding activity on the ground.
But then you look at the on-highway side, and it's the exact opposite story. According to the latest data from Price Digests, late-model used truck pricing is continuing to soften and come down. So a report written this month that flatly says used equipment values are down or the market is up is already out of step with the data.
Right. It comes down to segmenting the comp pool by asset class. If you're valuing a fleet that has both construction, yellow iron, and over-the-road tractors, applying a blanket market trend adjustment across the entire asset portfolio would misread it. The asset class itself is dictating the direction of the trend, with construction and ag moving upward, while Class 8 trucks are sliding.
It really highlights the need for precise market segmentation. And speaking of precision in our reports, that leads us directly into our third topic, which is the steady growth of appraisal review as a specialized lane for machinery and equipment appraisers. The Appraisal Foundation recently released 2 episodes of their Appraiser Talk podcast, hosted by Lisa Desmarais and Amy Kaufman, that are worth a close listen.
Those episodes focused on USPEP standards and how they apply to the review process. When we talk about developing an appraisal review, we're looking at USPEP Standard 3. It's important to specify Standard 3 here rather than the real property-specific standards, Rules 1 through 4 or 1 through 5, which do not apply to our personal property and equipment discipline.
Desmarais and Kaufman also spent a lot of time on Advisory Opinion 20, which deals with appraisal review when the reviewer is asked to state their own opinion of value. There's a very clean, distinct line there. If you're just reviewing the work, you're evaluating the quality and credibility of the original report. But the moment you state your own opinion of value, AO20 clarifies that you have taken on a distinct assignment element that goes beyond the pure review scope, requiring its own development and support.
From a market perspective, this is a highly billable lane that many equipment appraisers overlook. Lenders, internal risk departments, and litigation support teams are increasingly demanding a second set of eyes on comps and methodology. They want to ensure the original appraiser didn't just cherry-pick data, and being able to execute a USPAP-compliant Standard 3 review is a great way to build your practice.
It's all about risk management for the clients, and a big part of that risk, both for the lender and the appraiser, comes down to the quality of the asset documentation. That was the central theme of another recent Moving Iron podcast episode titled How Equipment Documentation Can Boost Your Sale Price.
That episode highlighted some clear field observations showing that complete maintenance records, detailed service histories, and verified hour logs directly drive up the realized sale price at auction and private treaty. Buyers are simply willing to pay more when they have proof of care.
For our methodology, this is a major factor. Better documentation reduces uncertainty. When we're adjusting comps, a machine with a complete verified service history is highly marketable, whereas a machine with no records carries an inherent risk. The absence of documentation tends to widen our comparable adjustments because the market prices in that uncertainty. That makes documentation quality a legitimate condition and marketability input in the valuation grid.
It really is a tangible value driver, not just administrative paperwork. And that tie-in between rising costs and asset management brings us to our final thread today, which looks at dealer sentiment and how it impacts our cost approach calculations.
According to Fusible and Equipment Watch 2026 Dealer Insights report, nearly 70% of dealers, specifically 69.8%, named rising equipment costs as the single biggest economic pressure on their business right now.
That is a staggering number, and it has a direct structural impact on our appraisal work. Even as used values diverge by asset class, these rising replacement costs are pushing up the cost approach ceiling on newer iron. When new equipment prices rise, it supports the upper limit of what a relatively new used machine can fetch, even in a softening market.
It keeps that ceiling high, which is what makes the cost approach demanding in volatile markets. Historical cost indices alone can lag these real-time dealer pressures and supply chain realities.
Absolutely. It all comes back to keeping your data fresh and your comp pools tightly segmented.
That is a wrap for this week. The takeaway heading into the week, the market is not moving in one direction, and comps segmented by asset class keep the adjustments defensible.
Thanks for listening. We will see you next week.